Alright YouTubes, in today's video we're going to be prepping and painting this Fiat 500 that I've repaired. So on the previous video I've done all the repair stage of this job, so if you want to go and check that video out, it'll be up here somewhere. So it's quite a nasty bit of damage on this job. Got it all pulled and repaired to a fairly decent standard. Now we're going to prep it and paint it. So in this video it's going to be a little bit different. On the painting stage of this, we're going to be using an additive in the base coat. So it turns the base coat into a one visit application. So I've used it a couple of times so far, but I've only used it with solid colours, so straight colours. So I haven't used it with metallic yet. So I'm really looking forward to trying it on this. I haven't found really any downsides to it yet. It covers really well. It's basically like a thickening agent, I suppose. But you put it all on in one coat, so you just wet on wet, 2 to 3 coats until you get all your coverage with it, and then drop coat it while it's wet, do all your blending while it's wet, and that's it. One application in one go. It does say on the data sheet that it can change colour, but like I say, I've only used it a couple of times on solid colours. I was blending and all the rest of it, and yeah, didn't really notice anything colour wise. So I'm interested to see how well the metallic looks and how well the metallic lays down with this modifier in it. So it's called ETR. It's called ETR additive that goes in there, and you just replace the thinners with this ETR additive. So yeah, we've got this door to do, blend halfway up this door, and a little flick on the bumper to do. So that being said, I'm going to get this prepped up. I'm going to block it all out with 320 first, finish it off with 500, do all the blend areas with 800 grit and a grey Scotch Brite, and yeah, get it all prepped up, get it in the booth, get it masked up, and then get onto the painting stage. Alright YouTubes, we all do and hope you're well. Thanks for tuning in. Yeah, second part of this repair on this Fiat 500, and yeah, just want to say a massive thanks for all your really kind and lovely comments. I really appreciate it. So yeah, we're on to the preparation stage now, and it's usual procedure which I would do on every job that I repair and prime. We start off by blocking it with 320, and I want to block it in a similar fashion to how I blocked all the filler work. This is quite a lot of filler work in this, and I just want to point out that I had a comment, and I know I shouldn't be focusing on negative comments, but every job's got a certain scenario around it, and I had a comment saying that the comment's gone. I did reply to it, but it seems to have gone now, that people shouldn't watch what I'm doing, I completely bodged this up and this, that and the other. This is a 10-11-year-old car. It's a trade job as well. To put new panels on this, which in an ideal world you want to put new panels on a job if they're on a car if they're that bad, but it would just write the car off. So you know, there's horses for courses with this job, and they commented saying that people shouldn't be listening to and watching what I'm doing, and I'm doing it all wrong, and it's not OE spec and I need to go training and all the rest of it. I'm helping somebody out here by getting this panel repaired. They got quoted thousands to replace the panels on this, which just not feasible for the type of car it is and the value of the car. So I try and do a good job within a reason, you know, and I take my time and I try to make my shapes in filler look really good. It's not great to be putting loads of filler over that. They said about putting over bare metal, and I ground away all the anti-corrosion protection. If you're going to be pulling a panel and pin pulling it and using welding type pullers on a panel, you got to get the galvanized off of it. It's simple as that. And there's nothing wrong with putting filler on bare metal. If this was restoration and it had corrosion issues and all the rest of it, yeah, it wants epoxy on it. Ideally I'd love to put epoxy on every single job I do, but I'm going to outprice myself. I outprice myself anyway. In this market, people that don't work for themselves, they do not understand how cutthroat this market is, and the competition in your area and the people undercutting you. So you've got to try and strike a balance with all of this, and it's a difficult thing to do, because I've got to earn a living and pay the bills for the business, pay Reese's wages, pay my wages, support my family and all the rest of it. I don't mean to be going on a rant, but these comments like this really bug me, and they're probably there just to bug me, but they do. I take my job seriously, I take my business seriously, I take my YouTube channel seriously, and I show you every aspect, whether I'm doing a high end, and you'll notice in all my videos that there might be a different way around I'm going to do a job, and it will be down to what's going to suit that job really. There's like I say, there's nothing wrong with putting filler on bare metal. I wasn't tackling any corrosion. I didn't burn through. I shrunk the metal. I done as much as I could to get this job looking as good as possible within the time frame and within the budget, with the least amount of filler possible, without spending days and days trying to get the metal perfect. And believe me, the metal was not perfect. I got it to a point where it was fillable, and that's what it's like in this trade across the board. Every bit of damage is unique, and there's always going to be discrepancies. We cannot follow by the letter OE manufacturers' repair specs. It's almost impossible unless you're a massive shop and you're contracted to an insurer, and all of these things, all of these factors come into it. And believe me, you could be that type of shop, and I guarantee it's not followed to the letter. So you've got to take your own experience and your own judgment on how to get these jobs repaired, and to repair them to the best standard you can repair them to. There is nothing wrong with filler in a car. If you look at a fully restored classic car that's been fully restored, I'll guarantee you that nearly every inch of that car has got filler on it. The cars are shaped out of filler when it's classic car restoration, and you could be paying hundreds of thousands of pounds for that type of vehicle, but they're shaped out of filler. That's how it's done. That's how you make something look beautiful. If it's not like complete perfect brand new panels over everything and everything metal finished, that they're going to have filler in it. And if you can make nice shapes out of filler and you follow all the procedures properly with all your coatings and all your other procedures that go with it, there's nothing wrong with it, and it will last. And it's like anything, things will only last. Painting and repairing and all the rest of it, it's a finish. You got to maintain that finish, like you've got to maintain an engine. If you have a car that's fully restored and all the rest of it, and you never wash it, you don't put coatings on it, you don't protect that paint, you don't keep it polished, don't keep it clean, it's going to deteriorate like your engine would if you don't have it serviced. So sorry for going on a bit of a rant, but it really bugged me, the comment. And I said in a previous video at the beginning of the year that I weren't going to let these things get to me, but they do, because I work hard. And like I say, 99% of you know what I mean, your comments are what keep me going, and it takes just this one comment to just want me to just walk away from it, and it's ridiculous. And I apologise. I apologise for even going on about it, to be honest with you. But I hope, with my channel, I can express myself and express how I feel, and you do the same back to me. And yeah, it's good to get it out, because I bottle these things up and then it festers. So anyway, back onto the job. So like I say, block it out with 320 grit. I do it all dry, and there's a nice amount of primer on this, so block it all out with 320 grit, guide coat it, get a good guide coat on there, and then get the DA on slow, nice thick backing pad on the DA, and just take your time and start getting all those 320 grit scratches out. These panels on these Fiat 500s, obviously if you look down a panel it's straight, but it's all curves everywhere, so it's hard with a square straight block to get all these curves looking right without it all looking, you know, like in the, as that wheel arch comes up and rolls into the quarter panel. It's quite easy if you've got all filler work around that, it can start looking a bit like a 50p piece. So you've got to try and get something looking straight, but curved, which, you know, it's a combination of using the block in different angles, different positions, and then using like edges of blocks. And a bit earlier on in the video while I was blocking it, if you noticed, what I got was like a soft, flexible, squidgy block with a foam back on one side, and I sort of used that in the curves, you know, just to take out any scoring or any straight lines I may have put into the curve. So that was the blocking stage, and then yeah, just get all those 320 scratches out. Take your time with that all the time, especially with dry sanding and 2K primer. They're designed to be dry sanded, the majority of them now, compared to years ago when you used to wet sand everything. They're quite chalky, so they clog up the DA pads. Even with good extraction and all the rest of it, they clog up the DA pads, and then they're not cutting then, so it all fills full of dust and you think you've sanded it. And normally 9 times out of 10 I'll get to the point where I think I've done all the fine finishing and all the fine sanding, and I'll blow it down, degrease it, and I can see 320 scratches. They sometimes don't show up on me until in the booth, so I normally have to give it another going over and either blow out your pad if it's got some grit left in it, or put another pad on there. And you know, if I think it's done, I normally go over it again just to make sure I haven't missed any. Get all your edges done, obviously, and then give it a good clean off and double check it. So this video is orientated towards me using the ETR additive on the meter per water based system. So the ETR additive, if you don't know, is basically a one visit modifier that you add into your base coat, and it turns it into one application, one visit type base coat. It's not that new, it's been out a few years, it's not pushed in the UK market at all, and no one's really using it. And I got questioned when I wanted to order it, so I'll give you a bit of the background story. I've had some issues with it. This is the first job I've done with it that I recorded, and I need to put a disclaimer out there because Meeper have asked me to do this. I do not recommend anyone buying this product. Things that I've done with it so far are not per data sheet, and they need to test it. So disclaimer is, I don't recommend you using this product. I'm taking the risk with this product myself, and whatever goes wrong with it is on my head and not Meeper's. Right, YouTube, so that's the fit. It's all ready now, all masked up, ready to go. And I'm just mixing the colour, so I'll show you the additive that's going to go in there. And yeah, we'll get painting. Yeah, I'm intrigued to see what this is going to be like as a metallic. Like I say, a couple of jobs I've done with it, straight colours, I was really impressed with it. There's a colour mixed, and instead of 20% thinners, which would be, I do it as a ready for use mix, so click ready for use, instead of 20% thinners, add 20% of this instead. And it's like, yeah, it's a bit gloopy, it's thick, it smells funny. It does obviously makes it thicker, so I need to speak to him. I need to find out about whether I should use a bit of a wider filter, because I use the 125 microns for water base coat because it catches all them little bits. That the 190 microns, you can get little bits sucked through those. I don't know if that 125 might restrict it a little bit. It seemed okay. It's funny, the application. I've been a bit dubious with it with the last 2 jobs that I've done, but the key is to get it on there wet, sopping wet. It goes on like Gravitex. When you look at it, it just looks like, you know, like Stone Guard in a way. It looks really thick, but that's obviously to give it stability so you can apply it all in one go. And once it's dried out, I found that, like I say, the last couple of jobs I've done with it, once it was dried out, it looked exactly the same as what this does with thinners in it as a 2-coat system. Looked the same, felt the same. Yeah, couldn't see any difference. Obviously the drying takes longer, but I'm doing one lot of drying and that's it. So as I go forward, if I'm going to carry on using this, or, you know, it's another tool, isn't it, in the arsenal to... For certain jobs it will suit. There'll be other jobs it won't suit. You know, Meeper have asked me not to make a video for this. I'm making this at the moment, but I haven't got permission to put this video out. I'm going to speak to them. They want me to test it and see what I think of it. And they're dubious about it going out in the UK market because they're not convinced that people are going to dry it properly and it will have a comeback on them. They've tested it and said it was good. And they said they didn't have any problems with it, but they've got a state-of-the-art spray booth with all the built-in dryers. They've got a water-based drying mode on their oven. They're not, you know, everyone ain't got that set up. It's critical, drying water-based. Some water-bases are a bit more forgiving than others, but with this Meeper system, being a pure water system, it's critical that you get that dehydrated, and you will get issues with it. But as long as you've dropped, you know you've dropped. I know how it looks and feels now, dry, and as long as it's dehydrated properly, there's no issues with this system at all. But that is the thing they're worried about. So that's why they haven't pushed it after testing it. They haven't really mentioned it. It's being used abroad, I know that, and yeah, Germany, you know, that's where Meeper's from, are pushing it. And all these other systems have got it. You know, there's other systems out there that have got these modifiers. And there's obviously paint systems out there that are these one visit type ones. And I think it is the way to go. So it is really thick. So I will try a smaller job. I'm going to try it with a 190 micron paint fill instead of a 125. So a little bit coarser, I suppose, not as fine as a 125's, you know, really fine. You couldn't put primer through it. So 190 is, you know, you put primer through that and top coats, and I'll see if it makes any difference. So gun setup is quite critical on this. So I've had to set a gun up specifically for this. So on the 2-coat system, I use a 1.2i, and that's on my 5500 HVLP, and my X is a 1.2i HVLP as well. And Meeper recommended 1.2i because in the 2-coat system, it's quite a thin base coat. It's got really good coverage, but it's quite thin, so it doesn't need a heavy setup. So they recommend a 1.3 for this with this additive in. And there's 2 data sheets out there, and there's one data sheet that specify a gun and a setup. So they specify a Sarjet X5500 HVLP with a 1.3i. And lucky enough, this gun come with that setup. So I have this setup already here, this gun originally came with. And then they recommend the QMR adapter. So the quick material regulator, that stands for. And the setup is... you push the button in, wind it all in. Can't remember exactly. Yeah, you push the button in, wind it all in, and then you wind it out 1 1/4 turns. So 1 1/4 turns, I put the indicator there, and that is basically it, set then. So with the button out, that's full trigger. I'm not sure if I do feel a little bit of resistance. So that is the application mode at 1.8 bar as well, not 2 bar. So 1.8 bar. Once you set the QMR up,
button out, full trigger, get all your coverage on there, all your blending, everything done in one go, wet on wet, 2 or 3 coats it says, until covered. And once you've set that up, you then push the QMR in. It gives you sort of a restricted trigger, and then you increase your distance and drop coat in full trigger with that button pushed in into the wet material, blending all the rest of it, and that's your drop coat, and that is it, all done. So button out, all that application, button in, drop coat, all at 1.8 bar. So, you know, really you want a gun set up for it, otherwise you're either going to be feathering the trigger, which might not be that accurate, or you've got to find where to wind it into. So that's it. Only on the data sheet, there's 2 data sheets, and I found one that had this information on there, specifying this setup and this gun. So that's how I've set it up, and it's all set up ready for it. So there we go. Right, the paint's mixed. I'm going to get all degreased, blown off, get a coat of blender coat over all of it, and then we're going to get this base coat on.
So we're there ready. Got a few little breakthroughs here and there, and I prefer using this MIPA spot sealer that is transparent, so it doesn't creep into masking edges and stuff like that. Couple of coats over any bare metal areas or any breakthroughs. If I've got some big breakthrough areas, I would reprime rather than put sealer or wet on wet over a job, because I see it all the time, and I'm not calling people out, but it has such a detrimental effect putting wet on wet down the middle of a panel that I won't do it unless it's for colour purposes and it needs a certain shade. But you ain't got to worry about colour purposes with this one with this one visit modifier for sure. And MIPA's got really good coverage, and it's only the odd colour here and there. If it's got a ground coat, if it's a free stage, it's a different type of paint job. But most of your colours, they might on the odd formula put out a recommended light grey, mid grey, dark grey primer. So you want to be priming it and that, and make sure your prep's really good. There's no need to put wet on wet all over jobs, and it's not what I would do. Every time I do it, I've either got to tickle edges, and it just doesn't look right. Wet on wet or sealer has a detrimental effect on your final outcome, so I won't do it. The only time I do it is for new panels, which is designed for. I may fluff a little bit in if I'm doing a new panel and there is some breakthroughs. I may fluff a little bit in, but only if it's not near a masking edge. And if you've got to put wet on wet over your panels because of the prep scratching, then your prep ain't right in the first place. So yeah, the only time I do it over primed panels is on bumpers, and I do put it on bumpers. 1, because it gives a little bit of cushioning for stone chips. 2, it's quite hard to get in every little nook and cranny, and you can cause some little bits of scoring with dry sanding in every little nook and cranny. So I will put it over plastics, bumpers that have been primed. But stuff like this, a blender coat or transparent base coat, putting that down first will fill in any little discrepancies in prepping marks, and high metallic colours can highlight these little prepping marks sometimes. Going over again with if you're finishing off in 500 grit, normally is like the one to be finishing off in for base coat. If I know it's silvery and high metallic, I'll quite often go over again with 600 grit. It takes a couple of minutes to just refine them scratches a little bit more. And like I say, things like this is a blender coat that you dry out first before you put base coat on. Transparent base coats is the same type of thing. They will help with any little micro scratches that could affect your the appearance of your base coat with scratches showing through. So yeah, I'm not one for wet on wet and everything, and I never will be. So back onto the ETR now. So I explained the gun setup. That's how I set the gun up, and yeah, put the blender coat on there first. and I'm pretty much there with this now. And Meepo have got me to hold back on all the videos I've done. I've got a lot of footage of this as I progress forward. This is my first initial using it as a metallic. I've done a couple of solid colours with it and a little bit of blending on one solid colour. And my main issue initially with this product, which started on this bit of footage, is from before Christmas last year, was the blending. I was struggling with blending with it. So I'm there with it now, and I've done some things and done some testing, and I'm pretty much there with it now, and I'm pretty much using it on everything now, and it's working really well. Like I say, Meepo, I had to send some footage to them and give them explanations of what I've been doing with it, and they've given me permission now to put these videos out. But like I say, I'm not recommending anyone to be using it, and they need time to test it. They're struggling with time at the moment to test it. The paint reps had a quick go with it. They reckon the product's changed from when it first come out as well, when they first tested it, when they decided not to push it. But they think the product's changed now. They said it smells different, looks different, and it does apply different. They just need some time to test it, because some of the stuff I've been doing with it is not per data sheet. The data sheet recommends for respray only, and it changes colour. But I've moved on from this. This is my first initial go, so there are some things that didn't work with this product on this job. But I'm at the point with it now, I'm getting real great successful results. I've had to invest a little bit of money into the way I dry stuff, but oh man, honestly, the speed, even Reese has said, like, what, you've finished that already? He knows, you know, he's got a good gauge of how long it takes me to paint certain jobs, especially when there's lots of bits and bobs all round a car and some parts and all the rest of it. Base coat time can be quite time consuming, especially with drying out stuff, and I'm not one for letting it sit there and dry out naturally. I'm in there drying all the time, you know, to speed things up, and the speed of application on this is unreal. So if you notice there, double coat, wet on wet. This is basically, I've done this with just as 20% ETR in it. You can do between 15 and 20% like you can with the thinner. On the ready for use mix, I put it through as a ready for use mix, and it shows on the mix to add the water thinner at the end, or there's a combination you can use. They've got a solvent accelerator that you can put in, and so I replaced that 20% with the ETR. So if you notice, I put a double wet on wet coat on, sort of flicked it out a little bit, and then I pushed that QMR in, which basically gives it half trigger. That's what I can figure out. It gives it half trigger, but with the QMR in, you haven't got to worry about trying to feather it and all the rest of it. And then you just increase your distance and drop into that wet film. And on this job, I talk about the mistakes that were made, and there is some issues on this job with it. Nothing horrendous, but you know, they had to happen for me to learn with it. Like any product, no matter how much info's on the data sheet, until you get in there and start using the product, no matter what product it is, you're going to start tweaking it to suit, because some info on data sheets is there to tick boxes, so you do have to manipulate it, and you know, your environment and the way you spray, all these factors come into it. So I've said this before numerous times in previous videos, it's not one size fits all. We adapt. We all spray differently. We all do something slightly different. That's the thing with this job, and with other trades as well. We tweak things to get the desired results that we need. Well, that's it. I'll let that overspray clear, and I'm going to put it on a bake cycle because it's more economical. Get it up to 40 odd degrees, between 40 45 degrees, and blow it out. We'll see how long that takes. So with this job, I'm not going to go too much into how I've got to where I need to be with this base coat, because I want to show it in the videos. As the videos go on, the footage that I've got of the jobs that go on, each time I've changed something until I've got to the point where I am currently at the moment with it, where it just works for me really well, and I can't see myself going back to the other way. I did do a job the other day the other way, and I weren't happy with the results. So I'll give you all the positives so far. Like I say, there's videos going to come out as I move forward with this and the things that I change. But the positives with it so far is the speed is the biggest one. The speed, I haven't found any issues drying it. This is how I dry any base coat, whether it's this the 2-coat way, another paint system that I've, previous paint systems I've had. When I'm drying out that base coat, I put it on a bake cycle, and get in there with the blowers, and I use these starter blowers because they use hardly any air out the compressor. They really volumize the air, and they really dehydrate base coat, water base coat really well. They're well worth the money. I've used loads of blowers, blade types, all sorts, and these are the best. And it's not because I'm a starter fanboy. It might be a little bit, but I'm going to try all their products, because I love their products, and they work better than all the others. So that, if it didn't work that well, that dryer, then I would be using something else, and it works the best that I've found anyway out of everything that I've tried blower wise. So you want heat being sucked through the back of that blower, and air movement, and it's got great air movement, and that's why I put it on a bake cycle at 45 degrees. So I've got lovely nice volume of air that's warm, and it dehydrates. So what I found with this modifier in there, it's more solvent type. So there are some issues with Meeper water base, and I'm not the only one that's experienced it. It can still hold a bit of water. It's not fully if it's not fully dehydrated, it can then cause your clear coat to dull, pinch back, and haze off when there's high humidity and a lot of moisture in the air. About 10 minutes trying that was. Let it cool down and get some clear coat on. So one big positive with this so far is it seems to have eliminated that issue. You'd think with it all being on there thick, and if you didn't dry it properly and all the rest of it, it would cause that issue, but that issue has gone. I can still, I see it sometimes, even in good conditions, good weather and good conditions, but it's pinched back a little bit, or it's just hazed on the base coat. When your clear coat's not fully cured, it's still susceptible. It's still open for a few days until it catalyzes fully and hardens right off. There's some changes in drying times with certain clear coats, but most clear coats still carry on curing, a couple of days later. So if you get moisture on that clear coat, it's still sort of open a little bit. It's susceptible for attacking that water base coat again and wetting it back up. That's what I find. But since using this ETR, it seems to have eliminated that. The other thing with it is, where you're not stacking up layers, you're creating less texture. It goes on like thick Gravitex, like Stone Guard. It looks horrible when it's wet, but when it dries, the stuff is silky smooth. Where you're not drop coating dry or putting a few coats of a drier spray on there for your effect, it's leaving it even smoother than what it would do the other way around. Another telltale sign is when I tap rag before I clear coat, there's barely any base coat dust on my tap rag, which the other way, especially if you're drop coating a couple of times to get your effect looking right, or any cloudiness out of it, you can see the amount of dusty base coat you've put on a panel by how much is on your tap rag, and there's none on there. There's barely any on there at all. So that is another big positive with it. So we've got the speed, which is a positive, the appearance and the feel and the finish of the base coat which is a positive. One downside to that is where it's such a smooth product and you're not stacking up any layers, your preparation needs to be a little bit better. So I recommend finishing off in 600 grit, whereas 500 grit you can get away with and it looks fine, but where you're not stacking any layers on top of each other, it does show your prepping scratches through it, because it's one flat film and one sheen, whereas drop coating on top of that in a normal way, you can hide some sort of prepping a little bit, so you can hide some micro scratching that way. So your prep needs to be a bit better with this base coat application for sure. My main issue is where it's so thick, and you'll see later on in this video, any dry spray of it leaves a rough edge. So on the wet spray and the wet film, it's smooth, silky smooth, there's no stacking up a base coat, there's no texture in it, it's smoother and it has no effect on your final outcome at all, where it's smoother, where you're not stacking it up. But on edges of where you finish, it's impossible not to have a bit of dry spray. In a blend area, you're going to have dry spray, and with it being thick, the dry spray then becomes really rough. So if you're completely coating a whole panel, you know, new panel off the car, or complete colour edge to edge on a panel, you've got a lovely smooth film of base coat that was all wet and it's all dry uniform and lovely and flat and smooth. But as soon as you introduce a bit of dry spraying, which you would do where you're blending, that dry spray becomes the complete opposite. It's rough because it's not thin enough to drag out and to lay down flat. So that is the issue that I have at the moment on this job. This is the issue that I found out from doing this for the first time with a metallic and trying to blend down a door. That is the issue, but I've overcome that issue now, and it's not per data sheet, but it's what I've been trying, and I've got there with it and it works. So it's nothing new. It's nothing I've invented. I've basically, you know, copied what some of these other one visit type base coats do, like the Glazurate and the Speed Secker, where they're all applied in one go. And the way I've got round it is to use a wet bed, and there's no designated wet bed. The blender coat that aids for blending in this system is a coat that goes over everything beforehand, fills in micro scratches, and it gets dried out, so you can't use that as a wet bed. So how I overcome it is by using the transparent base coat, which you would use in the 3-stage pearls and the tri-coats and all that. I use that as a wet bed and drop in that dry spray with this ETR additive in there, dropping that dry spray into a wet film of normal base coat, not with ETR in it, just mix the normal way into that wet bed, has solved it for me. And you'll see that in the video, up and coming videos as I go forward with this. You'll see how that works. It's not nothing new, it's not nothing I've invented. It's basically something I've copied and transferred over into this system, and it seems to work. So you'll see in this video the issues that I come across. Before you comment, yeah, I could have went all the way around that camp rail and down that pillar by the windscreen, instead of doing that little blend up there. There's going to be someone saying, why didn't you go all the way around that? And I'll give you my honest reason why I didn't do it. Because I couldn't be bothered. There we go. And another reason, I was trying out a new fade out. I had 4 blow-ins to do on that bumper. Bumper was in for a smart repair only. Didn't want the whole bumper doing, so that's why I'm smart repairing it and blending it in all those zones. They're horrible bumpers to be smart repairing, Fiat 500 bumpers, because there's no real places to lose it. If you want to blend halfway down that bumper, you've got to do all those little pieces and blend, so I thought I may as well just blend the pillar as well. And I'm always experimenting with fade out thinners and blends, because I'll be honest with you, my blending is probably an area of my paint spraying that I'm never happy with. So I'm always messing about with it and trying different ways. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. I'm not the best at blending clear coat, smart repairing type way. It's one thing that I'm not great at, so I blended the pillar. Right then, YouTubes, following morning after painting the Fiat 500 with the, I suppose, call it the one-step modifier. It's not really called that, it's called the ETR additive for the MIPA water base. And yeah, I'll give you a quick look, and there's a couple of, I'm still learning with this. I've had no real information on applying it. All MIPA have told me is to get it on there wet, and don't be afraid of getting it on there wet. So yeah, like any new product, you're going to learn as you go and find how far you can push it really and stuff like that. So I'm really pleased with it. This is the way I want to go with this system, to be honest with you. Like I've said before, it's maybe not for every job, but it definitely will suit certain jobs without a doubt. So it's gone on really well. Metallic looks nice and even, no patchiness in it. And it's blended up there, that pillar, well. They say it changes colour, and there's a bit of a sort of disclaimer warning on the data sheet about, it says for respray use only type thing, as it can change the colour. So I need to do a test really with mixing the same colour with it and without it, and spraying them out really, and seeing what the difference is. So I need to do that to know which way it throws it. If it does throw it out, if it lightens it, then I know it's going to lighten a colour. And the thing is, like this colour, there's about 12 shades on the system. We'll know if your painters out there, Fiats are never great matches, and they're inconsistent on matching as well. So it's hard to say whether it's made the colour worse. This is a Spectro formula from one of the shades, a corrected, or they call it optimised version of a shade, which wasn't, you know, it wasn't 100%, they never are anyway, but it wasn't like the closest match on the system, but the effect and everything looked right. So that's one thing. I don't know how it's influencing the colour, you know. The colour's not going to be 100% anyway. You never know, it might improve it, who knows. So anyway, colour-wise, I don't know whether it's made any difference. Application-wise, I love it. Blended really well. It's so much quicker, honestly, it's so much quicker. You just get all your base coat done, and it's like, wow, I'm done now. Just got to dry it once. So I love that side of it. So applying it, I haven't got an issue with it going on. Got to go a bit slower and change it, obviously, the way you're going to apply it. But I noticed on this, this is the first time I've blended it, first time I've done it with a metallic, first time I've blended it. I think what I've done, and I take this away from this as a bit of a learning curve. I sort of, when I had all the wet application on there,
where I blended it wet, which I would do in the 2-coat system, do sort of my blending out, and then normally on the when I do it as a 2-coat system, I do my blending out and everything. When it's all dry, the drop coat, I drop coat into my blend area. That's what I normally do. And this water base, I'm really happy with the way it blends. It's pretty easy to blend, to be honest with you. One of the easiest I've used anyway. But what I noticed is I drop coated sort of a bit further than where my wet application was in the blend, and I've got a bit of bunching up there of metallic, and I didn't even drop coat it that much, to be honest with you, but I did go back to it because I was a bit overcautious really. It's hard to tell how well it's blended while it's all wet. When you've got it as a 2-coat system, you can see, I can see my blend a little bit, so you can do a bit more work in that area, maybe to help transition it, drag it a little bit more. But I think what I've done is I've drop coated in an area that didn't really have any wet base coat. So that's what I'm going to take away from this. I've got there's a bit of bunching up and metallic there. It's slightly noticeable. Obviously, I'm going to notice it because I'm looking for it. So what I can see from that is the metallic's bunched up a little bit, and it has created at certain angles, it's created a little bit, not a halo, but a bit of a light patch where the metallic is all gathered up and stood up at a different angle. So that's one thing I'm going to take from this and address next time. Try not to over drop coat really. That's probably what I've done. I've over drop coated in an area that didn't really have any wet base coat on it. It's not going to be as wet as the main areas where you're putting all your colour and your coverage. You're going to have a thinner bit of base coat where you blend, obviously, because of the, you're flicking out in your transition and stuff. So yeah, got to keep trying, got to learn with this. So I've done it on this door. You're blending halfway down the door. I want to try and blend that out, and to me, I can see it. It's created a little bit of a lighter patch there, so I can see my blend a little bit. So that's one thing. It's all a learning curve, like I say, and that's one thing I'll take from this. Not to drop coat really in a dry area. That sort of effect is where it's happened to me on numerous occasions with solvent and with water, where it's what I call overblending. Overblending then creates a worse transition than if you didn't blend enough in a way. So yeah, I can see it blend a little bit. Whether that stuff's had an influence on the colour as well, whether it shows that up. Like I say, this colour, it's never going to be 100%. It was blendable and that's about it. So whether it does change the colour or not, I need to find that out. That's going to be a test that I'm going to be trying. I'm going to have to spend a little bit of time, like I say, spray out both versions of it, the 2-coat and the 1-coat in the same shade, and see what influence that ETR additive has on that. Most of the time, whatever system you're using, whatever version, whether I'm going to be using, 2-coat, one visit, whatever version I'm going to be using, 9 times out of 10 I'm going to be blending it anyway. So is it that critical that it may influence the colour a little bit? Like I say, it may even improve it for you. So there we go. That's what I'm taking from this. My first time with it, with a metallic colour. But everywhere else blending wise, well, I didn't sort of over blend in these areas. I didn't sort of care so much here, and it's blended in better. Horrible bumpers to blend these are as a smart repair. 4 fade outs. This is what a customer wanted, this is what he's having. So 4 fade outs, which is a pain. And I went up the pillar on this because I couldn't be bothered to go all the way around, to be honest with you. Got no reason to. Yeah, you can say in the comments, why didn't you go all the way around there? Because I just didn't. Apart from that, yeah, if you see the first video of this, that quarter panel's come out really well. I'm happy with the repair on that. little bit of a mission that. So if you haven't seen the repair stage of this and what the state of this quarter panel was before we started, go and check that video out. So what I'll do, we'll get it all finished, demasked, couple of little nibs here and there, nothing major. CX4 clear coat on there, so I need to polish it quick. Leave it more than 48 hours and it's a pain to polish. Handles, bit of matte clear on those. Just done them in the body colour. I couldn't find no reference for the matte colours, the matte plastics on this, so that looked fine on there. It's not edge to edge or nothing. So yeah, get it all finished, get it fitted up, get the polishing done, and we'll get it outside, and hopefully there'll be a bit of sunlight today. We'll get it outside and see what it looks like, see what the blend looks like, see what the colour looks like. And again, you may say in the comments, why didn't you blend that wing as well? Because I didn't. Simple as that. There's limits to what I'm going to do to people's budgets, and this type of job for this customer would keep things to a minimum for him. So there we go. Get it all fitted up, get it finished off, and we'll get it outside and we'll have one final look. Right then, YouTubes, that's the fit all finished. The light's not great. We've only just finished it and it's getting on the dark side, but I know you're not going to see a lot here, but I'll show you. It's all come out really well. I'm pleased for my first attempt with a modifier with no real information, just winging it. It's come out okay, but there is something that I've noticed, and this is part of the learning curve for me. The bits that don't work out how I want them to work out, I can see where I've gone wrong, which is great. This is how we learn, isn't it? So it all blended in fine, and it blended in fine up here, and I know it's a different angle, and it's a tricky thing to do sometimes, is to blend halfway down a door on metallics because of the angles and the way it sits and the way you look at it compared to like this pillar. It's difficult to lose a blend sometimes on metallic heat colours, and quite often with water based you can see it, and I've had it with all different systems and all different types of metallics. Sometimes they look great, sometimes they don't look so great, but I know what's happened here. So the light's not great now, so there's just where the blend zone is, there's a bit of bunching up of metallic, so it's stood up the metallic. I've drop coated how they recommend, and it's not really been drop coated into the wet film. You're not going to see it now, but I can see it in certain lights. So what I've done is I've drop coated how they recommend with the QMR pushed in, so it makes it restricted, probably half trigger, and I've drop coated into an area that hasn't really got any wet film in it, and it's bunched up the metallic. I drop coated and then I went back into that area as a precaution because I'm trying it, so that area looks a bit highlighted in the sunlight. Not horrendous. Certain angles, only if you know it's there you're really going to spot it, so it doesn't jump out in your face and go, oh look at me, I've been painted. It's not that bad. But yeah, I can see that, so I know where I've gone wrong there. The drop coat in, it's my first attempt, I'm not making excuses, it's my first attempt blending it, and I think what I've done there is I've drop coated into a dry zone really, where I shouldn't have put any drop coat, because with the two coat system of way of doing this, with the two coat system, you one bar drop coat, once it's all dry, all your coverage and your blending's done, you sort of drop coat into your blend area and a bit beyond it, and it sort of lessens the transition, you know. The metallic always sits right in the two coat system on that one bar drop coat, but it doesn't sit right unless it's into wet film, from what I can gather. So that's one thing I can take from this, and I did go back into this area, which maybe I should have just left it alone, and it might, well, pretty much I'm pretty sure it would have been better there. I didn't go back to this area where I've blended up this pillar, and on the front bumper I wasn't that concerned about it, and it's blended fine there. I can't see it at all, and I know you're not going to see it, and this is terrible on my part. Colour's decent, spectroed, picking a shade optimized out of about 12 or 13 different shades. Color chips I had, none of them look great. It's a metallic grey Fiat. I don't need to say any more than that, really. It's never going to be a great colour match. So I don't know yet whether that stuff's had an influence on the colour or not, but the colour's all right. It's definitely getawayable. You wouldn't paint one panel edge to edge, but where it is edge to edge, to this wing, it's decent. You can't see nothing, but it's decent, good enough in normal light. And to this boot, again, you're not going to see a lot because it's dark, but it's decent enough match, and it's a better match to the bumper on this side than what it is on the other side. And I think that's all original on the other side, so it might have improved the colour, who knows. But there we go anyway. So hope you enjoyed these two videos, one with the repairing of this panel, and yeah, just to mention the repair, it's all come out pretty decent. It's better than I expected, to be honest with you. So yeah, I'm happy with that. All repaired, nice. I'm happy with it. I'm happy for once. So there we go. There's the repair from the first video, and there's the paintwork with the one visit modifier, Meeper's ETR additive, that's what they call it. And I'm going to be trying it out some more and trying to try some colour, try it as a 2 coat and a 1 coat to see what way it throws the colour, if any. If it does throw the colour, I've sort of got a bit of a reference then as well. So there we have it. It's dark, it's cold, and I'm going in. So thanks for watching, really appreciate it, and we'll see you again soon. Look after yourselves. Cheers.